Okay, if you don't prepare to run ads properly, you could kill your company. But if you don't run ads quick enough, you could just be killing your growth. I'm going to cover when you should start running ads on Facebook and Google for your contracting business and why should you listen to us. We've generated $2 million in trackable sales in the last 6 months for our clients. We've had results like this, and this. And I really want to kind of cover this because most of the people I speak with don't actually know when they should start running ads. The three factors you actually want to look at is what is your current monthly revenue, what is your revenue capacity, and how much extra monthly revenue are you looking to add, right? I'm going to use the example of you're a remodeler with 3 employees and you're doing around 55K per month. If you're busy, you can probably do 60 to 75K on average. But let's say your target is to hit around 100K per month. That's an extra 45K in revenue just from ads. And let's assume you can hire staff or send this over to other people you know to accommodate the growth. Next thing you need to know is you should be able to know your average client lifetime value, right? You're probably, if you're doing remodeling, you can probably get to around 15 to 20K per job. This might be lower depending on your area. Hopefully it's higher, right? But you would only need 3 jobs to actually hit your revenue target, right? And from there, to determine your customer acquisition cost, you kind of need to determine what are you willing to do to get that 15K average job. The answer is, of course, as little as possible. But if you want to remain competitive, if your target is $5 per job, then you really won't see any results. A reasonable acquisition cost is anywhere between 10 to 15% of revenue. This can be lower, it can be 5% for higher ticket jobs, but we'll just say 10% for the sake of it. So I'm going to list this as around 1500, right? Another way you can actually look at this is you can just use a return on ad spend as well, right? For every 1500 you spend, you should want to take home around 15K in sales, and this is a pretty good return on ad spend. We do see better, but this is where we can generally scale it, right? And return on ad spend, it does differ pretty wildly. For contractors, 10x is good, e-commerce 4x is really good, and for digital like services like a guru selling a course, 100% with 100% margins, a 2x return on ad spend is good. It just depends on your business model, right? Next thing you want to do, you want to determine your cost per estimate. You should already know your close rate on estimates currently. So out of every 10 leads, every 10 estimates, how many would you land the job on, right? You would probably, if you're average, 40%. If you're not at this rate, you probably charge too aggressively, or not too aggressively, you charge well, or your sales skills are not there, right? From there, you can use that to determine your cost per estimate. This is the maximum, right? You should aim to get lower, but if all else fails, this is when you know you can still keep running ads. And this is $600 cost per estimate target. This is kind of determining if our ads are working or not, right? If you have a low ad spend, it should be way lower, right? But if you're spending hundreds of thousands on ads every month, you can still aim for this and you'll still be fine. Next thing you want to look at, it is a little tricky, but you do want to look at the cost per lead, and that determines the cost per estimate. There are various ways to get there with Google and Facebook, right? But you should be going for the maximum you can afford, right? And if you keep everything set in a vacuum, right? If your cost per estimate stays the same, your close rate stays the same, your price stays the same, yes, lower the cost per lead, aim for that. But from what we have seen, by optimizing to lower the cost per lead, you decrease these as well, which is not good. Or increase the cost per estimate, decrease the close rate, decrease the job size. And then across America, the reported average nationwide is around 175 per lead, according to this graphic I pulled. And it makes sense. It's more competitive in more competitive areas, of course. But you can kind of get away with this math if you convert, let's say you convert, I believe the number is around 40% into or 60%. We've seen 60% on Facebook, around 70% for Google. If you have dialed in ads, 60% is very reasonable, but anywhere between 360 to 450 per lead is what you can afford on the maximum end to pay, right? And you got to keep in mind, this may seem ridiculous and really high, but this is quality leads. These are people who are likely to buy, right? If you're getting junk leads, then you've optimized for junk leads. You should be hiring a marketer to kind of fix lead quality more than anything. You can run ads on your own. If you can make numbers work, great. But if you want quality leads to make numbers as good as possible, that's when you hire a marketer like myself, right? And then you got to remember, if you aren't able to resonate with people and sell them on why you're with them, they won't convert. That will lead to a high cost per lead or a low close rate, basically. And this is kind of why, when we look at this, we often recommend starting with local service ads. Those are the ones, I'll pull it up really quickly. Those are the ones like, I'm in here. Okay. These are the ones like this, where you're only paying after a qualified person calls you. The only thing you have to do is basically post, get reviews, answer the phone right away, and then have a high budget. Because the only thing you have to focus on is the actual sales process, you can optimize that before you start doing the other ad channels if you're going to do it on your own, right? The next thing you want to look at is your close rate, right? If you have the actual sales skills to close leads at a high enough rate, you are going to be squeezing out less revenue out of the money that you put into Google Ads, right? Let's say you only close 25% of leads versus a 40% target we have here. That turns a 10x ROAS into around a 6x ROAS, or 10% ad spend into 16% ad spend. Another way to look at it, you're going to turn 1,500 costs acquired to 2,400. So if your sales process sucks, you're not good. If you charge low, it's the same thing. If the job price goes to 12K versus 15K, 8x ROAS versus 10x ROAS. If you have both bad salesperson and lower jobs, you turn your return on ad spend into around 3K or 2,400 for a 12K average job, and you get a 6x return on ad spend. That's barely profitable for most remodelers, so that's not good. So the one thing you want to look at, if you know your target ROAS, you can look at your monthly ad budget. Should be this, which you can get your daily ad budget divided by 30, right? You should never start at this though. You should aim to crack things on a low ad spend. We typically see around $50 per day for ad spend initially, right? You can get away with 40 depending on the channel, but the reason why you want this for ad spend on Google and for Facebook is because that is enough to generate leads, and it's also enough to have enough leads to test things, right? If you get 10 leads from a chunk of your segment of ads that are just all horrendous, you can change your ads, right? If you get 10 leads that are good but they don't close, you can adjust the sales process for the next 10 or adjust the marketing message so that thing doesn't pop up, right? It's not going to work right away, and you do have to use data to improve performance. The last thing I want to cover here that I don't have in here in this presentation, you do want to give yourself roughly 3 months of ad budget to make ads work, right? And what I mean by this is, if you're going to do this on your own and you have to learn the lessons the hard way, let's say you're getting a lead or 2 leads every day, and you make adjustments every 2 to 3 days, which is kind of normal. You give yourself enough iterations and enough time on your sales cycle for people to go through the pipeline, for you to make the changes, and for them to convert, and for you to be profitable on it, right? So for this remodeler, around 12K saved for ads is good. You can get away with just 5K to start from what we've seen, because the local service ads kind of bypasses a lot of these, but you should have money to invest, and you should not be using your last 2K on ads. If that is the case, go build partnerships, go knock doors, go do other stuff, go on Facebook groups. You can spend 5 hours a day prospecting, and if you're at that point and you're looking for higher quality leads and you want someone that can do a good job, we offer a 20-day free trial. What we will do, we will turn around 70% of the leads that we generate you into estimates by making sure that every lead is sold on you and they're sold on the most profitable services, and they're actually wanting to start it right away. And we do that because we focus on the actual metrics that matter, which are these. If you want to hear more, go to our website in the link below and book in a call, see if you qualify.